Welcome, luxury enthusiasts, to the Luxury Travelers Podcast, hosted by Rodney George. The ultimate passport to opulent destinations, extravagant experiences, and unparalleled indulgence. Whether one is a seasoned jet setter or daydreaming of the next lavish getaway, the Luxury Travelers Podcast has it all covered. So buckle up and prepare for a journey into the lap of luxury. Now, your host.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time it is when you finally got a chance to drop in on this episode. And you're going to be so glad you did, because people ask me all the time, what are my 3 favorite places in the world to go? And one of them we're going to talk about for about a half hour here today. Today I have with me my good buddy, Jeff Cesar. Jeff is with a company called Rocky Mountaineer. He's a national accounts manager. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rodney. It's a pleasure to be here. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for your time.
People do ask me all the time, and I'm not kidding, and they want to know where's the best place you've ever been. Well, that's really hard to nail down. I said, why don't you ask that question a little bit different way? Why don't you ask me what are the 3 most beautiful places I've ever been? And so they come back with that question, and the Western Canadian Rockies is always number 1 or number 2, depending on what day of the week it is.
So when it comes to the beauty and the scenery of the Canadian Rockies, it is breathtakingly gorgeous. And we're definitely taking you to places like Jasper, Lake Louise, and Banff that are pristine. And the wildlife, the hotels, you name it, it really helps create a true trip of a lifetime close to home.
It does, and it is, and it probably will always be, but there's some really unique things about your trip. Why don't you start with the train? Tell us a little bit about the train that we're going to be experiencing throughout this trip through the Western Canadian Rockies.
Sure, more than happy to. So, we really focus, as you do on your podcast, luxury, and we are a luxury, fine dining, seamless travel experience. We travel eastbound, westbound, or round trip. Most of our trips start or end in Vancouver or Calgary, as those are the 2 large airports within this area that offer a great deal of economic flights to get in and out of Canada and the West Coast. And it's 2 or 3 days on the train, either heading eastbound or westbound from those locations to the incredible Canadian Rockies, Jasper, Lake Louise, and Banff. Now, Rocky Mountaineer handles everything for you. The hotels, transfers, tours, everything on the train is all inclusive. And I'm talking top shelf liquor, fine dining, food cooked made to order exactly how you like, a few feet away from where you're sitting, delivered right to your seat. What we don't handle, just to be candid and transparent, is airfare, trip insurance, and some meals off the train. But from hotels ranging from 3-star properties all the way to 5-star, 4-diamond, we have it. Working with the Fairmonts, the Rimrock, Four Seasons, Sutton Place, and I can go on. So luxury is definitely a focus of ours. We want to try to provide a true, unique experience close to home and taking to some of the most beautiful places like the Canadian Rockies.
You have several different levels of service. I always book my clients on the gold leaf because that's just the top, the creme de la creme there. And explain the differentiators between your classes of service.
Of course, happy to. So we have a Silverleaf, which is a single-story car, panoramic views with an arch window at the top. You have a small outdoor veranda space on Silverleaf cars that holds around 4 to 6 people comfortably. You're eating at your seat. You have 2 to 3 hosts or hostesses who are going to handle all the commentary. They'll talk about what's coming up ahead. They'll do storytelling. They'll tell jokes. They'll keep you entertained and make sure you are taken care of from beginning to end, delivering food and drinks right to your seat. It's a very nice way of traveling, and that's what we primarily offer in the U.S. between Denver and Moab, Utah, as we have a route out there taking you to the Southwest National Parks and connecting you to the U.S. Colorado Rockies. Now, Gold Leaf is only offered in the Canadian Rockies, and just to share a difference between what I just described on Silverleaf, Gold Leaf is a 2-story car, 360-degree dome windows on the top level, an outdoor veranda space that holds around 20 people comfortably, 3 to 4 times the size larger than what you have on Silverleaf, 3 to 4 hosts or hostesses, all, of course, top shelf liquor. Instead of eating at your seat, you would actually be eating in a dining car. So on the 2nd floor, you are sitting for your incredible views with 360-degree dome windows. On the 1st level is a whole dining area where you, of course, have windows to look out, but you have incredible chefs cooking fine dining, tons of variety of food options, about 3 times the size, larger amounts of options to choose from compared to Silverleaf, looking at 5 to 6 entree options that change daily for breakfast, lunch, sometimes dinner, pending your itinerary while on board the train. And so if you were to ask me what's the best class of service, obviously it's Gold Leaf. And if you're looking at someone who's trying to be budget focused, you can mix and match the hotels. Like places like Vancouver and Calgary, do a 3 or 4 star property, a Marriott, a Sheraton, a Hyatt, and then upgrade in the Canadian Rockies to the Fairmonts, the Rimrock, and so forth, and upgrade on the train. Downgrading Calgary, these are large cities. All the hotels are really well located. And that's for, once again, clients who are looking to try to stretch their penny a little bit further, perhaps do a much longer trip with us and have everything included. And of course, you have all the money in the world, then you want to go best the best. And we can offer that luxury experience from beginning to end, private transfers, private tours, suites or villas pending inventory at the time of booking with some of our most iconic 5-star properties. It really is customizable, working for what works best for everyone out there.
Well, I'll tell you, folks, when we talk about Gold Leaf service, it truly is. I mean, when you get on the train first thing in the morning, they divide you up into 2 groups. One group goes below for early breakfast, which is cooked to order, along with Bloody Marys or mimosas or whatever it is that you'd like to have with your breakfast. And when you've completed your breakfast, you go up to the dome car. The people that are on second shift come down and they have their breakfast. And about an hour later, they pop back up and you roll along for a few miles. And then all of a sudden it's time for lunch. It's like a smorgasbord, and it's a smorgasbord of custom made meals based on the entrees that are available on that particular day. But if you talk about comfort and you talk about beauty, and the train often slows down or even stops if there's something really awesome to see. Talk about that just a little bit, Jeff, because I know that what normally goes along that train track that you guys own are also sharing that train with you is something that really makes the animals inquisitive.
Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, our average train speed is only 30 miles an hour. We slowed down to less than 5 miles an hour for the bridges, the waterfalls, the wildlife, the wilderness. Now, we do share these tracks with other freight. We don't share them with other passenger trains. In fact, we're the only passenger train allowed to operate on majority of the tracks we work on. They're taking you through spiral tunnels or through other unique areas with waterfalls and such. But when it comes to the freight that is on these tracks, majority of the time it's carrying produce, grain, wheat, and barley. Now, unlike highways or roads where you have fences and barriers keeping wildlife off of the roads for obvious reasons, the train tracks don't have these fences and barriers for the most part. And these freight carrying produce, grain, wheat, and barley, it falls all the time. So definitely throughout the whole season, the animals are trained. When they hear a train on the tracks, they think easy, good food right next to the train tracks. They come down from the mountains, the riverbeds, and they'll be feasting. It can turn into a train safari. In fact, I've been so fortunate enough. I've been on the Canadian Rockies train trip every single season, except, of course, during COVID, because that we weren't operating then. But for the past 10 years, I've done at least over 12 or 13 times. Every time I've gone, I'm maintaining 100% statistic that I've seen either a bear or bears, from black, brown, or grizzly bears. You're going to see moose, elk, deer, coyotes, bighorn sheep, bald eagles. And I can go on. And it can really turn into, like I said, a train safari with the speed we're going at. We're talking like Kodak speed, going about, I would say, 2 to 3 miles an hour, and seeing some incredible wildlife literally within feet from the train. Go outside, soak in the scenery that passes by at such a slow speed, have your camera ready, and get ready to capture some incredible memories that will last a lifetime.
So a lot of people ask me when I first start talking about Rocky Mountaineer, so we're actually going to sleep on this train? Oh, no, we're not going to sleep on the train. We're going to take you to nothing but Fairmont hotels if you have the Gold Leaf service.
Correct. Yeah. With ours, we're not trying to be like every other train out there, and many trains have those sleeper compartments. We believe if you're sleeping, you're missing the sights, the scenery, the wildlife, the wilderness, and we want you to experience that. So we're a daylight traveling only train, where you operate usually boarding between 8 and 9 in the morning and arriving on some days between 5 and 6:30. Other days are shorter, where it's only 5 to 6 hours on board the train. But if you're sleeping, you're missing what's happening outside, and we're taking you some of those breathtaking, beautiful places. I mentioned some before that I'd love to kind of share even a little bit more insight on. Spiral tunnels. The spiral tunnels are right at the edge of the Canadian Rockies. And what they are is a series of tunnels that spiral inside the mountain going up in elevation. So we're the only passenger train in the world allowed to go through these. We'll go through the tunnel, spiral going up in elevation, come out and be about 500 to 600 feet above where we went into the tunnel initially, go around the circumference of that mountain, offering spectacular views, then go through another tunnel, spiraling a different direction. So the views that we had 500 feet below us on one side of the train, now we come out of that tunnel. Since we spiraled a different direction, the views are on the other side of the train. And we continue to go this up and up and up. Where most places in the world, you're near the bottom looking up at these Canadian Rockies. But on Rocky Mountaineer, you're near the top looking down. And so with the speed that we're going at, allowing you to slow down and enjoy the wildlife and the glaciers and the waterfalls and the scenery, you're not trying to race with your camera, trying to capture pictures. You're having incredible fine dining and top shelf alcohol, delivered right to your seat or right wherever you are on the train. And it's definitely a very unique experience. Never sleep on board. We want you to slow down time, get to places like Jasper, Lake Louise, and Banff, and spend 2 or 3 nights in these areas. And we include touring and sightseeing, so you're not feeling like you're rushed, like checking in the evening and checking out first thing in the morning. We want you to perhaps have a full day of leisure. If you want to wake up whenever you want, venture off on your own, see the sights and scenery of Banff with over 40 restaurants and tons of unique shopping, or go for a nature hike and a walk. There's lots of things to do in these beautiful national parks that are convenient right from where the hotels are located. And it's about enjoying where you are, not rushing through and getting back home. It's slowing time down and really making the most of your vacation.
It truly is. And it's my idea of roughing it. Staying in a Fairmont hotel every night. The one at Lake Louise, and you've all seen the pictures, just nothing short of breathtakingly beautiful. The color of the water in the lakes up there, the waterfalls, everything that you're going to see from the train, all the wildlife, and the fabulous, fabulous Fairmont hotels you stay in. I think there's only one night on most of your routes that you don't stay in a Fairmont, and that's service stop in Kamloops.
Correct. Yeah, no, we have these towns nestled between Vancouver and the Canadian Rockies, allowing us to overnight. So these towns would be Kamloops or Quesnel. Those 2 small towns only have 3 to 4 star hotels. Now, we do use the nicest hotel properties, which is like a Hampton or a Hyatt or, very comparable, very clean, accommodating hotels. But these are not 5-star. And they're the only hotel that is available, so that you're not sleeping on a train, getting perhaps in a bunk bed, or having to share a toilet with someone down the hall. That's not luxury by any means.
No,
so
that's not.
You're arriving between around 5 and 6:30, perhaps 5 and 7 p.m. You're only there for several hours. There's a nice small, like in Kamloops, this town you could see in about 30 minutes. There's a beautiful park. There's beautiful sunsets that take place every evening. It's very dry. In the summer, it can reach over 100 degrees. It's a unique place, unique topography, a very small town, some great restaurants. In fact, if you were to ask me, the Noble Pig is my favorite restaurant in Kamloops. It's located about a block away from the Delta, which is a hotel that we pretty much use for all of our Gold Leaf guests. The other hotel we use in Kamloops is the Sandman property. And once again, by working with Rodney and his whole team, know that he is very familiar and experienced with Rocky Mountaineer. You're working with one of the best. But if you stump him or have really detailed questions on hotels, restaurants, tours, I'm also in his back pocket to be utilized. I've been with Rocky Mountaineer for over 10 years, and I'm happy to get into those details of weeds to help, once again, make your trip such an incredible one. But the hotels, yes, those are 3 or 4 star properties in those areas. We make sure you're aware of it way ahead of time. And the other places, we can definitely go all out and make sure that it's true luxury from top to bottom.
Speaking about getting in the weeds, let's talk a little bit. You guys have a lot of new stuff coming in the U.S. Tell us a little bit about those trips.
Yeah, no, more than happy to. So we have another train route we started in the midst of COVID. Go figure. It was really something we've been planning for many, many years. COVID hit, of course, and shut down travel for about a couple years. And we all remember that very, very fondly because it was just recently. And with this U.S. route, it was something where we had to follow the guidelines of what the initial governments of these states allowed us to. And so we were one of the first ever operators to start launching in the midst of COVID a brand new route between Denver, the Colorado Rockies. So we all go right from downtown, the Lodo District, Union Station, and we can take you eastbound or westbound, overnighting in Glenwood Springs, beautiful town known for its hot springs, the Doc Holiday Bar, some really cool hotels also within walking distance from the train station there, and then continuing once again west into Moab, Utah, which is home to Arches, Canyonlands, Dead Horse Point, where Thelma and Louise went off the cliff. And our growth isn't done there. That's currently where our train operations are taking us. But our focus as a company is growing in the U.S. market in a big way. No one in the United States offers what we offer in the Canadian Rockies, which is a luxury train that you never sleep on, taking you to places where you can spend multiple nights and do some sightseeing and touring. And there's a ton of Southwest national parks, not only Arches and Canyonlands and Dead Horse Point, but you have Bryce, you have Zion, you have the Grand Canyon, I can go on and on. And what our goal is to connect our train to the majority of these Southwest national parks. Over the also future, we're looking at connecting into Napa Wine Valley, down the coast of California. So the growth is really, really focused, and it's exciting because that's where we can see a lot of big things happening over the near future. Now, mind you, I want to be very open and honest. We have no gold leaf on the U.S. train because there's tunnels that don't allow the height of our gold leaf cars. The majority of our silver leaf cars, which I described earlier, are used in the U.S. Now, we do have another class of service that I didn't touch on called Silverleaf Plus. Now, that is your luxury experience for the U.S. route. And what you get for a small upgrade per person is you'll have not only your Silverleaf car, but 2 lounge cars on top of your Silverleaf. So a total of 3 train cars to access 24/7 when you're on board the train. And these lounge cars are outfitted with tons of extra seating, more outdoor veranda spaces, more bars with bartenders crafting signature alcoholic beverages, more variety of food options. There's even a piano with the pianist playing. I don't know why, but we have that because that's what luxury is. It's about setting the mood. And it really enhances your experience for a very small nominal fee per person to have 3 train cars to access when you're in the U.S. route.
That's interesting. But now, when's all this U.S. stuff going to be available? I mean, I know some of it already is. The trip to Moab, from Denver to Moab and reverse, is already available. But you're expanding even beyond that. And is that coming next year, or is it 26?
Those who listen to this podcast are getting a very big sneak preview because we haven't really announced it in a company way. I'm going to share with everyone on here. So those who listen to this are getting a way ahead, big heads up compared to anyone else out in the world. So I ask, don't go to media and say you heard this because, it's a little bit secret, but yes, it is coming. It's going to be 2026 when we have our brand new train route that's going to be added to the Moab area. So we're going to be having another train route connecting into Moab to make it easy to get in and out of Moab. And so that's going to be definitely shared around Q4 of the 2024 season coming up around the corner. We also are going to be changing the name of our train in the U.S. because it is very different from the Canadian Rockies. You're taking 2 different scenery changes, 2 different price points. I mean, unlike Canada, where there are tons of 5-star hotels, the U.S., like Moab, or places like Bryce, where we have a hotel night there's only 1 hotel there. It's a Best Western Plus. Better than a minus, but the plus doesn't add much. And as a result, the price point differences between U.S. and Canada are vast because Canada has those 5-star accommodations, that luxury experience, the gold leaf train. The U.S., even though we got Silverleaf Plus, and the nicest hotel in Moab, just being honest with everyone, is called the Hoodoos. It's operated by Hilton. It's a 4-star property. Fantastic location. Refurbished during COVID. The rooms are beautiful. I've stayed there myself. The restaurant is amazing. And we will be having a ton more routes added. But the first route that will be shared end of this year, and you can definitely keep in touch with Rodney on updates on this, will be launching in 2026. And it will be connecting Moab to another city where we have a lot of airfare opportunities to fly in and out of. And that's all I can really share. I don't want to get in trouble and be like, Jeff, you launched on a podcast and now everyone's going to, So it's coming. I'm being very, if you will, from a very, high level, down of details. And I just understand it just because it hasn't been announced yet, but the growth is going to be there very soon.
So I guess we should stay tuned.
Yes, no, definitely. And, at this point for 2024 and 2025, if you want to travel close to home, you want to avoid all that, I would say just risk of traveling outside the country to some of the different beautiful continents that we have on this earth of ours, and travel close to home. And maybe you've never seen the beautiful national parks that we have. This route is getting increasingly more demand. We see a lot more bookings closer in. We still have tons of inventory, and we operate for the US between April and end of October. For the Canada, it's April and mid-October. So we shut down a bit earlier on Canada because the daylight, the hours get less in the day, it gets darker sooner, and we don't want to be traveling on the train when it's dark out, because then you can't see anything. So that is the reason why we have our season end a little bit earlier in Canada compared to the US, where we go to the end of October. But September, October in the US is prime high demand time, with the fall foliage, with just the weather. You're in a desert for the most of the time in those beautiful areas of Utah. It's not going to be like a desert feel when you're in September, October. It's going to be actually very comfortable, which is nice.
By the way, our staff, we usually book people into Vancouver anywhere from 2 to 5 days early. Vancouver, for those of you who haven't been there, is a world-class city. You've got Victoria Island you can jump out to. That's a day trip, either by boat or seaplane. Whistler Blackcomb for either, well, you won't be snow skiing in October probably, but for golf, some of the greatest golf courses, almost all of them are bent grass fairways. If you like golf and you've ever played bent grass, you know one thing for sure, you want to play it again. So we got all kinds of things like that you can do in and around Vancouver before you even get on board this fabulous train.
Totally agree. And on top of that, just to add, for those who are doing Alaska cruise, maybe you've already done Denali, you're looking for something unique, or you want luxury. And honestly, Alaska, the nicest hotel in Alaska is in Alyeska. It's not as luxury as what we have to offer in the Canadian Rockies. So think of us as a pre or a post cruise tour to your Alaska cruise, as it will really, I think, coincide quite well with a Regent, an Oceania, a Silver Sea, a Seabourn, even the suites and villas on the Celebrity, the Princess, and so forth, the mass market cruisers. We have about 40 to 50% of our clients who are on Rocky Mountaineer have a connection with a pre or post cruise tour option. So it's very popular to do that to really enhance your experience while you're up in the neck of the woods of Alaska.
Yeah. Well, you're in that part of the world and you've got the time to do it. We just did that same connection off of a Regent cruise onto your train last week with a couple of couples from Tennessee that are good friends. So it is something that's easy to do. It's a wonderful experience and really maximizes your time and what you're going to see while you're in that wonderful little quadrant of the world.
Yeah, totally agree. Another big point to add, if you're looking for something to do around Vancouver, the Capilano Suspension Bridge and Grouse Mountain Cable Car are really unique sites and scenery areas. I think it's close to Vancouver. You can do it easily for a couple hours, and I know Rodney and his team can set you up with a nice tour if you're there for a day of leisure to enjoy. But there's lots of things to do around Vancouver. It's a very safe, big city, and I think it's close to home. I mean, that's another big positive here, is that it's also very good for the Canadian currency versus U.S. currency. It's a safe place to travel to, and you get a little bit more bang for your buck.
Well, Jeff, you've enlightened and informed us for almost our entire time's worth here today. So is there anything else you want to throw in as we wind down here?
Sure. I mean, something I didn't mention that I think really showcases well, you always have these surveys that we offer, and about just over 50% of people who experience Rocky Mountaineer, whether it be in the US or Canada, fill out these surveys. And then it's about a 10 to 15 minute long survey. It's not like a quick 2-question, how was your trip? Rate it. They go into the details of everything because we really want to know what we can do better moving forward. And the NPS scores are rated in the upper 90% levels, which is unheard of in this industry. That's Net Promoter Score. Same with guest experience service. And just when it comes to retention, our teams working on board the train are seasonal. They don't operate all year, so they're only working between April and October usually. In the US, 92% of our team return season over season. 2 people this year that make it not 100%. One person joined our outside sales team as a BDM, so he is now a part of the outside sales team. And another person who was a chef on board that is now a chef up in the headquarter office doing more training for other chefs. So they're still a part of Rocky Mountaineer, just now on the train. And being able to have a close to 100% retention allows us to focus on better storytelling, better service. We're not trying to teach someone new how to do their job. And that is what really makes the service on board the train so above and beyond, and the storytelling and just the experience on board. And having those types of NPS scores within this industry, where they average around the low 80% as being like phenomenal, having it in the 90s is unbelievable. It really shows, like places like TripAdvisor, a place where people spew hate and anger, negative feedback. We've been on there since we started, and you can find, of course, there's always people out there who are going to share negative things, and a lot of it's focused on stuff that's out of our control, like Mother Nature. But the majority of the time, it's positive. We maintain a 4.5 or higher, and that's out of 5. I should mention that it's a 0 to 5.0 scale, a 4.5 or higher every single season, year after year. So sharing that really shows, I think, to those who are listening, this is a true trip of a lifetime. We go above and beyond to make it a unique experience, and one that's going to be memorable and life-changing. It's all about